A new AEW and Warner Bros. Discovery television deal is not likely to be announced at the upcoming Warner Bros. Discovery upfronts. However, a summer or fall date is more likely for an announcement point. Plenty of details on this. Plus, the NWA, they say, according to President Billy Corgan, that they have signed a new television deal. Tony D'Angelo has won the NXT Heritage Cup on last night's episode of NXT. Gallas are back in NXT, returning last night after 3 months off of television. More names have been added to the upcoming Women's North American Championship ladder match. Sami Zayn discusses if winning a world title is more or less likely now that Triple H is in charge. Drew McIntyre comments on re-signing with WWE, and Charlotte Flair has been cast as the lead role in an upcoming indie horror film. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's start off talking about the television deal with Warner Bros. Discovery and All Elite Wrestling. Now, as of Tuesday, PW Insider reported that it was believed that a new deal has not been reached. And while AEW is likely going to be mentioned at the Warner Bros. Discovery upfronts, a new television deal likely will not be announced. However, Fightful Select say after speaking with AEW and WBD sources, Fightful have learned a lot more about the relationship between the two organizations. Now, Fightful have been told that the announcement of a new deal is expected to be kept very close to the vest, and summer or fall could be a more likely announcement point. The exclusivity window between AEW and WBD continues into the summer, though Fightful don't have a firm date on when that window does end. Now, Fightful say while they're not sure where it will be announced, there is a pilot for a new AEW-related program with WBD that was set to be announced for social channels this week. It was described as not being a reality series. We get any more details on that in the future, of course, we'll let you know about that one. Now, WBD sources that Fightful spoke to had indicated that WBD had interest in adding AEW pay-per-views to the Max slate for quite some time, and noted that the two sides have been in talks for quite some time about what a deal would look like, with some proposals being made as far back as last year. It was also noted to Fightful that almost every deal that WBD does is with Max in mind, and that at the time of AEW's last deal with Warner Bros. Discovery, there wasn't nearly the heavy focus that there is now on that platform. Now, what about the NBA? Of course, the NBA and Warner Bros. Discovery potentially losing the NBA has been a big topic of discussion recently, and how that relates to AEW. Now, Fightful have been told that if WBD does indeed lose the rights to the NBA, they will be looking at reinvesting funds to maintain their position on cable, as they'll need to look at other properties to help attract viewers. Though Fightful say they aren't sure if any of that is related to AEW or if it will affect it in any way at all. Now, both sides reportedly were complimentary of one another and the process based on what Fightful say, the people that they spoke to. So what are your thoughts about this? So the suggestion is a new TV deal isn't going to be announced anytime soon, but the suggestion is possibly the summer or the fall could be a time when a new television deal is announced. So what do you expect to happen? What do you think the outcome is going to be? Do you think AEW gets a new TV deal with Warner Bros. Discovery? Do you think it's for more? Do you think it's for less? Do you think it's for the same? How do you think this one plays out? Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments section below. Now, speaking of TV deals, the NWA, at least the president of the NWA, Billy Corgan, says he's just signed a new one. It's been a big week for Billy Corgan, as the Smashing Pumpkins lead singer and NWA owner's new reality series, Billy Corgan's Adventures in Carneyland, has dropped on the CW app, chronicling Corgan's life as he attempts to balance his personal life and career with the Pumpkins and running the NWA. As it turns out, though, Corgan's deals with the CW app to air Carneyland and NWA Power aren't the only things he has up his sleeve. In an interview with TV Insider to promote Carneyland and the NWA, Corgan spilled the beans on some news that should help in raising the NWA's profile. He said, quote, "I just signed another TV deal, which I haven't announced yet," Corgan said. "I saw someone in wrestling media wave off the NWA's success, but I don't know a lot of companies out there that have 3 television deals as an independent solely funded by me. We're really fighting a lot of wars here, not only to create a wrestling product that fans will like, but also to beat the world's perception that it can't be done. That unless you have $1 billion in your pocket, you can't manifest enough energy. But what people don't understand is I'm one of the only people in the world who understands how to take something literally from nothing and take it to the top of the mountain multiple times. I know it can be done with faith, dedication, and hard work. It will be interesting to see the behind-the-scenes stuff going on, which, by the way, is not work. I insisted on real and organic storylines. It will be interesting to see if people perceive that as integrity or weakness on the part of the company. I think it's a strength because we have nothing to hide. So what do you think happens with the NWA in the future? And what do you think their potential is for success in the future as well? And let's talk about NXT last night. We have a new championship holder, but first, there was a fine. Now, NXT General Manager Ava was shown on last night's episode of NXT, issuing a stern warning to Tony D'Angelo and the D'Angelo family. While she considered cancelling his Heritage Cup Championship match, instead she opted to issue a hefty fine. A $20,000 fine to be exact, to which D'Angelo barely blinked, instead offering to pay it with cash. While there was an ominous warning of no funny business regarding the title match later, it seemed that there could very well be some funny business. As I mentioned, though, we did get the title match and we also got a brand new champion. On last night's episode of NXT, Charlie Dempsey looked to defend his Heritage Cup Championship against Tony D'Angelo, while the scores in the Heritage Cup rules match were split for quite some time, with Tony D picking up the win, a time limit draw, Charlie Dempsey scoring win, and another draw. It came down to the final moments of the 5th round. Dempsey's No Quarter Catch crew faction members, Damon Kemp and Miles Bourne, appeared from out of nowhere, back from their week-long missing spell, complete with torn t-shirts, to strike during the match. However, their interference wouldn't prove to be enough to get Dempsey the victory, as Tony D'Angelo would go on to win the 5th round via pinfall, and therefore become the brand new NXT Heritage Cup champion. This marks D'Angelo's 3rd title reign, having already had 2 runs as NXT Tag Team Champion alongside Channing Stacks Lorenzo. However, the celebration wasn't shown very long, as there was complete mayhem in the back as well, which we'll get into in just a second. But what are your thoughts when it comes to Tony D'Angelo becoming the new Heritage Cup Champion? Now, we also saw the return of Gallas last night on NXT. To close last night's episode of NXT, as I mentioned, Tony D'Angelo was mid-celebration after besting Charlie Dempsey for the Heritage Cup Championship. However, the celebration wasn't shown very long, as there was complete mayhem backstage that the show cut to cover. There was a surprise return from Gallas, who appeared to have taken out all of the challengers for Obafemi's North American Championship, that being Ivar, Wesley, and Josh Briggs. Gallas gave the ominous message that this was just the start before the show ended. The faction, consisting of Wolfgang, Joe Coffey, and Mark Coffey, had been off NXT television since February, however still had a big role to play in WWE shows. Gallas took part in helping Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson prepare for WrestleMania 40, leading up to the big event, working in training matches with him in Los Angeles. Of course, The Rock competed in his first official match in 11 years on night 1 of WrestleMania 40, where he teamed with Roman Reigns to face off against Cody Rhodes and Seth freaking Rollins. The Rock thanked Gallas publicly on social media and even noted that he will see them down the road. So Gallas are now back on NXT programming. We also have confirmed participants for the upcoming Women's North American Championship ladder match. Now, at the upcoming NXT Battleground Premium Live event in the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada, there is set to be a 6-way ladder match to determine the first ever NXT Women's North American Champion. In the first of 2 qualifying matches on last night's episode of NXT, Sol Ruka defeated Izzy Dame to advance to the ladder match in Las Vegas. In the second of the qualifying matches, the main roster's Ivy Nile took on Lash Legend. Thanks to a moment where Jakara Jackson distracted Ivy Nile, who had spent extra time delivering a dropkick, Legend was able to capitalize. Lash Legend was able to defeat Ivy Nile to advance to the ladder match at Battlegrounds. The qualifying matches will continue on NXT in the coming weeks to determine the 6 women who will participate in the ladder match at Battleground on June 9. Now let's talk about Sami Zayn. He's discussed the differences in working under Triple H versus Vince McMahon and how much it could mean when it comes to a future WWE Championship opportunity or run. And Sami Zayn has explained why he could be further from a WWE Championship win now than when Vince McMahon was in charge. Zayn came just within touching distance of winning the undisputed WWE Universal Championship at Elimination Chamber back in 2023 in front of his hometown in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Zayn landed a devastating haluva kick on then-champion Roman Reigns, but it came after the referee had been knocked out, meaning there was nobody to count the pin. The Bloodline then interfered on Reigns' behalf, and the Tribal Chief defeated Zayn to continue his historic reign. In the months since then, the underdog from the underground has continued to play a key part on WWE television, and at WrestleMania 40, Sami Zayn ended Gunther's record-breaking reign to become Intercontinental Champion for the 4th time. Despite the success, Zayn still has eyes on a world title reign someday, but he thinks he's less likely now than it was when Vince McMahon controlled WWE's creative direction. Speaking to Alex McCarthy of the Daily Mail, Zayn explained that things were a lot more unpredictable with McMahon, meaning a title reign could come at any time. Whereas Triple H has a set vision for the long term, it's hard to become a part of the longer term story. He said, quote, "Here's how I see it. I think Hunter sees me differently from how Vince saw me, especially as a good guy. I think Vince saw me much more as a bad guy for a number of reasons. He saw my irksome qualities that he thought lent itself to being an irksome character. Having said that, I think things were a lot more unpredictable because of the nature of Vince's week-to-week kind of approach, that sometimes the marble would just fall in the right hole and now you're the champion. Whereas with Hunter, I think it's much more he has a longer term vision, and if you're not part of that vision, then the chances of breaking into that vision are much, much slimmer." Ultimately, Zayn plans to do his very best in every aspect of his work, hoping that will be enough for him to one day finally reach the top. He said, quote, "It's kind of a double-edged sword. He might see me in a way that lends itself to more being in the mix and possibly winning it, but on the other hand, I could have just slipped on a banana peel and won a world title. I just tried to do my best, just give the best performances I can give, try to perform with as much emotion as possible, tell the best stories I can tell, and I hope that eventually that gets me there." Now, despite it being a goal to win the World Championship before he hangs up his boots, Zayn says it's not something he lives and dies by, as he's already had an amazing career regardless. He said, quote, "I'd like to win the world title once before I call it a day, there's no question, but I don't live and die by that. It'd be great, and I really appreciate people saying they'd love to see it. I'd love to see it too, and I hope it happens, but if it doesn't, thank you just the same, because it's been amazing." Now, Drew McIntyre, of course, he recently re-signed with WWE, and he's named the deciding factor behind putting pen to paper on a new contract with the organization. Back on April 27th, The Rock announced that Drew McIntyre had finally signed a new WWE contract. The big money deal put to bed months of speculation around McIntyre's future, and it's been reported that he'll now stay with the company for at least 3 more years. While the enormous payday will have undoubtedly helped the Scottish Star's decision, McIntyre said there's more to it than that. Speaking to Alex McCarthy for the Daily Mail, McIntyre said being happy was the key to him deciding to stay with WWE. He said, quote, "At this point of my life and career, all that matters is I'm happy, and I can get time with my family that I've not had for 20 years. When it comes to creative, I can only control the controllable. As we've seen, almost for the past couple of years, there's been a lot more leeway given to talent, a lot more collaboration. It's been awesome, as you can see across the board. A lot of people breaking out, and an opportunity for myself to show what I can truly do. I know with that, it's always going to be a case of roll with the punches, peaks and valleys, but there's more to it than just that. We'll see what the future holds. I just know that I'm in my prime, and Drew McIntyre's not going to stop wrestling." And finally, an interesting bit of news when it comes to Charlotte Flair, because as reported by Deadline, Charlotte Flair will star opposite Freddy Rodriguez in the new Averted Vision Pictures indie horror/thriller You Lose, You Die, written by Carlos Spiff TV Suarez. Pre-production is already underway, and Suarez is set to make his directorial debut. Now, the plot excerpt from this report says as follows, quote, "You Lose, You Die" follows sociopathic tech expert Mr. Fantastic Rodriguez, who runs a popular show on the dark web with 2 other sociopathic tech experts, Miss Perfect, Flair, and Mr. Creep, Anthony Alvarez. On the show, thousands of viewers vote on games and challenges for prisoners to participate in. If the prisoners lose, viewers vote on the weapons the sociopaths will use to kill them. Now, back in early December, Charlotte Flair suffered a torn ACL, MCL, and meniscus during a match with Asuka on SmackDown. The star later underwent surgery, and it was reported she would be out of action for 9 months. During her absence, Charlotte Flair signed a huge new contract with WWE, keeping her tied to the company for several years. The deal was said to represent a huge money increase and is one of the biggest ever given to a female star in professional wrestling. But there you go, guys. The latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.